On to stage 3 now. So we're going to make our server respond to multiple pings. So we'll keep the server alive after we receive a ping and respond to multiple ping commands rather than just shutting down after we get the first one. We've been given some commands here that we can use to manually test that our solution works before we have to run the tests. So let's jump into making some code changes and see if we can get this to work. Starting from where we were at stage 2, we're listening for incoming connections. When we get one, we read from that connection into a buffer. We don't do anything with that buffer, we're just ignoring the contents of it for now. And then we write back a pong message. So the easiest way to make our server respond to multiple pings on the same connection would just be to wrap this read and write code in a loop, and then we can just repeat it. So that should now fulfill the test criteria. So let's just give a check that it does. So if we spawn the Redis server, it doesn't say anything, but then we can connect to it with netcat on 6379. And if we send some ping requests, we get pong messages back. So that's cool. If we try and shut down netcat, we get a crash on the server, which wasn't expected. So the error is happening on line 15 of our code, which is this stream write. So the reason that would happen is that we've done a stream read, stream write for our pings and pongs. We're sitting at the top of our loop trying to do a read. When the connection goes away, we can still read successfully from that connection. We'll just get no bytes back. So that's a sign to our program that the connection's gone away on the other end. It will always wait till there are at least some bytes to give us back. If they give us back no bytes, that means the connection's closed. And at that point we should have stopped. But instead we've gone ahead and written to the connection which is closed, and that's given us this error of trying to send to a broken pipe out to that network socket. So let's capture how many bytes we read. So number of bytes read. If that read count is zero, we should then break out of this loop. So that's the end of this connection to our server. So let's try it again. Start the Redis server, connect to it with netcat, send some pings, and then close our connection. This time it doesn't mind. That read and write loop has just exited successfully, and it's listening now for a new connection. So we should be able to reconnect to this. And it will still keep working. So that looks pretty good. The one thing we could still improve here is this buffer. So we're throwing away the buffer at the moment, we're not reading the contents of it, so this isn't a huge deal, but we are allocating a buffer every single time we read and write here, which isn't necessary. Because we're always told how many bytes were read from the network, we know that as long as we only read the part of the buffer that's starting from the beginning and is as long as read count, we'll only be reading stuff that's been written in this read. So we don't have to worry about bytes off the end of that read count being garbage from a previous read. So we can move this buffer out of the loop and save ourselves the work of, or save the computer the work of reallocating that and just reuse it. We can always just write over the top of what's there. So let's just check that still works. Cool, don't need that. And then we can send some ping requests. Good, so it behaves exactly the same, but the code does a little bit less work. So let's get that committed and see if it passes the tests. Check stage 3, and we'll push that up. So by pushing it here, we're not going to see the tests run, which is a shame. I should have done that from the terminal. I'll come back to the website instead, so we can see tests are running, and they've just passed. So that is looking good. We are sorted with stage 3.